Hello once again, it's Professor Lusheen, and this is our Week 3 review, Week 4 preview. Again, it's the end of the week. It is July 5th in my world, and I just want to kind of go over a few things that I've learned over the last week to help you guys out. I will be reviewing, I'm going to do a demo for the incident investigation assignment we had done together. I've met with some of you, and you all said, hey, that was really helpful, and so I'm going to do that. And then let's talk about the big case study assignment. So last week we covered Bloodborne, and I sort of applied it to early efforts to understand in the pandemic, but it all came back to universal precautions. Covered ergo related things, slip trip fall related things, and material handling in the work environment. I feel all these are, they're relatable to, no matter what workplace you're in or what you've done in the past. So this week we're getting into electrical, arc flash, machine safeguarding, or what some people call machine guarding. I call it safeguarding because of the light curtains and the newer technologies. Lockout tagout, which is energy isolation and release before you do maintenance work. And then we've got welding, cutting, brazing safety, but we also have in there, hazardous materials because of the compressed gases. It's more compressed gases than anything, okay? So yeah, and so last week it was more about things in which you do some planning, you have programs, training, awareness, maybe some practice drills, things like that, or demonstration rather. But it comes down to you're continuously observing the work environment and then making corrections based on where you see the weaknesses. This week is really about visual auditing and prevention strategies with equipment, or I guess you call it controls, engineering controls. So yeah, that's really where we're going. We're kind of keep building from it. For this week, I'm trying to provide you with more videos which get into evidence of what this stuff is, maybe some of the equipment so you can see what it is, and also accidents because I want you to see what it can do. Hopefully that's helping. If you find any or come across any videos you're like, wow, this is really good, let me know. I can throw it in here. I mean, there's only so much you can put into a class, of course, but or a lecture rather. All right, so let me go through the demonstration of what I was thinking with the assignment. Like I had said in last week's video, I updated it, and I like what I've come up with, but there are still some deficiencies. Yes, so let's get into it. So there are 3 case studies. I've got them right here. This first one I found online. These other 2 are actually real. They were issues that were reported to me over the last year. There were 4 basic steps of the analysis. Evaluate whether it's recordable and why. Propose a technique to evaluate the incident and justify why. 3 was to use that technique to generate a list of causal factors, and then finally make recommendations that would control or mitigate those causal factors. And so I've got it all listed right here. And then also for each step, I want you to reflect a little bit about your experience, because that's important to me. I read that, gives me insight into, what you went through and what I could add to, the presentation of this assignment in future semesters. So the first 2 questions, really these 2 charts are flow charts. Yeah, they're both flow charts. Really is what I wanted you to use. So what makes something recordable? They're right here. If they don't meet these basic requirements, you go over here. I did put on the assignment that you could look up what is considered first aid. So first aid, none of these, medical treatment. So you really need to know, why does it say medical treatment 3? Is that supposed to be an S? It's from the OSHA website. But you have to know what first aid is, and I believe I provided a link. It's some pretty crazy things are considered first aid. Yes, this is what I wanted you to use to determine that, and then reference this. For the second part, I think page 64 of the Oakley book had this really cool flow chart. And so you can ask yourself, based on the description or the case study description, which of these best fits, which technique is best for what you did. And this is where we probably had the most difficulty, because some of you didn't use this or didn't know about it, didn't think to use it. And so I'm going to be adding something like this to the future assignment. Therefore, I actually gave more points for this. But some of you said, well, what technique am I going to use? I'm going to use the events and causal factor analysis. Well, no, that's not a technique. That's more of a category. That category is predicated on whether what you're investigating is an accident sequence or if it's an event sequence that led to the accident. Sure, we're kind of splitting hairs here once in a while, but just by reading also these questions, it should help you kind of determine what would be the best. And what I found is that some of you, not everybody selected the same ones I would have. I'll show you in a moment. But it made it so that it made it difficult for you to actually narrow to the proper causal factors. And so it is important for selection. Again, I didn't take off a lot of points. As long as you provided some sort of defense or justification, and I'm like, yeah, they put some thought into it, I gave you points. Here's my breakdown. On top here, I have the description of the case study, whether it was recordable, the reason why, and as you can see here, it's right off of the flow chart. As far as the technique that I chose, for the first one, which was the heat stress or the heat exhaustion, I chose human factors because it really came down to exposure between the person and the environment. And that is listed right here in the justification, that their body was not able to maintain a temperature due to external factors, though, water, Gatorade, ice was provided. They also weren't acclimated. There was no, they hadn't been exposed to it long enough for their body to build up a resistance to it or adapt. So that's why I chose the human factors. Next was the failure modes in effect. This was the person who got their foot hit when they lost control of the pallet jack going down the ramp. And I felt that the failure mode would help identify sort of the basic concepts or the mishaps that occurred in that series of events led to an accident. And then finally, the barrier analysis, I definitely thought was the best one. I've always applied barrier analysis to anything regarding, whether it's regarding, pun intended, machine safeguarding, lockout, tagout, electrical safety, arc flash, things like that, in which ideally you're trying to mitigate exposure to the human through a physical or design consideration. So that's what I used, and I referenced that flow chart when I made that selection. My root causes, I kind of already identified them, that using these techniques I was able to identify. I tried to look at it more of a functionally, how could I change things, whether it's design or engineering controls or a high-level administrative. I didn't blame the employees. This is stuff nobody wanted to get hurt. Nobody intended to get hurt. It's just, there were some variances or misunderstood risks, and we need to tweak the system in order to mitigate it. So for the first one, I think there should be a work hardening conditioning, and I think one of you, and I don't remember which one of you did this, had referenced the new heat stress standard that OSHA just came out with, I think on Wednesday. They just published it. I read it. I've been going through it. I need a little bit more time with it. It's not real clear what they're really trying to say. It bounces around just like all their other standards, but they do have an allotment for assessing what the people might be exposed to when the conditions hit certain points. They call them thresholds. There are things you need to do as an employer. Provide training, provide cooling mechanisms, whether that's cold water and drink, whether that's an air-conditioned break, or a work-rest schedule, something like that. And then to monitor as well. Was that pretty much it? What to do if somebody does become susceptible to heat stress, start exhibiting certain symptoms, what to do in those cases, work hardening, things like that when they're brand new. So that's all in there, things we are kind of already knew. Next, with this. So, and I talked to several of you. So, if somebody is losing control because something is speeding up or getting out of control, what do you want for a solution? A brake. And actually, this one, we did replace all of our manual pallet jacks with ones that had an actual braking mechanism on it, a hand brake. We are pushing to get everybody on the floor to get safety shoes. Management doesn't fully understand that investment because it's over $100 per person, and if you're talking 145 people, that's $14,500, and so they need that cost justification. Though we just had another accidental drop on someone's foot, and I don't know if it was a toe that was broken or badly bruised. I was going to say contusioned, bruised, but I think we can reopen that now that we'll have an actual work comp claim to go with it. This one was a very minor one. I think the broken toe will be more significant. And then I always like to have signage when I've made a functional change, especially when it's in a plant, so that people are reminded of the instance that occurred and why we've asked them to do it a certain way. Finally, there was the barrier analysis, and this is what this actually occurred. So this is the compartment that holds the blade. Sometimes the blade sticks out a little bit because this what do you call that? That piston right there is sometimes it gets kind of locked, or it holds it out, and that's how the maintenance person accidentally caught it and cut their finger, and just did first aid. But the thing is, well, why is that? Why can you access that? And I couldn't get a good picture of it. So we designed this cover, this block, that gets put over this whenever they have to go into it before they do any work. And with this in place, there is no contact with the blade. It's completely enclosed. And even if it was to accidentally cycle, unless your finger was right in the way, nothing would happen. It would all be absorbed by the block. So that's what we came up with. Yeah. So hopefully you all got something out of it. Yeah, those types of exercises I think are very important, especially if you're going to be going into this field. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the case study. I've met with several of you, and you have something in line. Another person emailed me, and I apologize for not getting back to her sooner, but I actually do have something she can work on based on some of the things I've been doing in the plant. But it can be as simple as doing a visual audit at a grocery store or a restaurant. What I want you to do is just to, assess what are the potential hazards or risks, and then research to find out what they should be and make recommendations. The idea is this is the way things are. This is a chance of something bad happening. Assessing what should be done. What could we actually, by making changes, what could we be preventing? I know that's super 10,000 foot viewpoint, but the idea is I want you all to gain some sort of hands-on or practical experience. I want you to be, what's the proper term? Objective, very specific with assessing something, trying to limit bias and subjectivity. And I mean, in this class, this is meant to be sort of the preparation class if you start doing internships. And really, when you do an internship, it's just a series of different types of case studies that you're working on for the most part. So the objectives, define the expectations of the case study with the instructor. So I would like you guys to propose. I've already met with some of you and approved it. Verify, receive approval from the site where you're going to do it. Prepare your data collection. And it could be, in visual is a big one, visually observe something, but try to employ a technique in your evaluation, something from class. Accurately document your work, write a report, and create a summary presentation. So I would like you guys to present, but if time or accessibility doesn't allow it, I'm not going to take points off if you can't do it. It's due by the 21st. That's at the very latest because my grades are due for this class on the 23rd. And I need at least... I'd like to have more than 24 hours to grade things. I read things multiple times. On our course, now I haven't posted where it can be uploaded yet. I'll put that in week 6. But I do have a tab that is semester projects, examples from previous semesters. So on the top here, this is the assignment. It's very basic. I have the rubric that I'll use for scoring your report. I have something we provide our capstone interns, and this is just sort of case studies. And this other case study assignment, you can look at these. They'll just give you some insight into the structure of things, how to think about it. And then I've got a plethora of different types of case studies that we've done in different classes. So really what it's meant to do is to teach. It's meant to teach management, if you're turning into them, that this is the way things are. Using this technique, it was determined that there are things we can improve that would mitigate these things from happening. Therefore, you try to show some sort of value-based assessment on why it's a good investment. Like I said with the shoes, we don't have the full support to show them that investing $14,500 per year, by the way, because it's every year, they should get a new pair, would mitigate costs that could be that much. But we're getting there. We're getting there for sure. I'm going to show you some examples here in a moment, but for right now, I just want to reiterate, I would really like to see more of you. I've met 4 of you now on WebEx, either during office hours or special one-on-ones. I get a lot out of it. I think you get a lot out of it. So if you can, Sunday night is our best one. So far, it's just been Jaden and myself, but we have like half-hour, 40-minute conversations about things we're doing at work and ideas. So that's 7 p.m. Central on Sundays. If you could make it, that'd be fantastic. Just come on in. You don't have to. Well, to get the points for the discussion board, I'd want you to talk and answer some things. But if you want to just sit in and listen, especially if you haven't ever worked in safety. I mean, we talk about things we're doing at work. Mondays, nobody's really shown up for that. I still log on and make myself available. And then Thursdays at 8 p.m. Now, I didn't meet last night. Last night, I was actually at a minor league softball game, and it was 4th of July. But, if there's a different day or time that works better for you, let me know. And I am willing to do one-on-ones, at different times. And I've done that with students. I get out of it. You get out of it. If you haven't already, still want you to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you don't have an account, highly recommend you do. And it was just posted 2 days ago. ASSP posted the board of directors because our role started on July 1st. And there's me. And so I've been getting a lot of traffic and invites to connect because of that. It's always a good thing. Okay, let's just look at a few things that I put together. These are additional case studies. So this was a capstone intern working at, I believe it's a construction group. And so they have an executive summary, some justification, their cost-benefit analysis, and then what they're recommending. That's the executive summary. And they have this whole report. So your report will not be this extensive. It will not. It'll be much shorter than this. What is this one? This one is, where are the page numbers? This is 28 pages. Yours should be no more than 10. Under 10 is just fine. And they've got photos and everything. They did a great job. This was a great student. This is one I did with my 481 students in the spring. I was contacted by the UW Whitewater risk manager to go check out an indoor air quality issue in one of the buildings. And we worked on this together. We actually used some equipment that was available through our department. And we did a lot of online research, and we wrote this paper. This one is 19 pages. So we did, what is our technique? Visual inspection. We did some indoor air quality monitoring. We conducted some interviews. We assessed symptoms that were reported. Yeah, and then we measured some stuff. We took a lot of pictures, and we made recommendations based on everything we found. And then we have our references. So that was a real simple one. We actually turned that in. This one is a little more sophisticated. This was actually a survey that I did with my 41 students. They did all the data collection and the walk around. I built the survey, I did the analysis, and I wrote up the results and recommendations. But we gave the employer some ideas of something they could do to improve what's going on at their workplace from a worker perspective, worker perception angle. Some people call it culture, some people call it climate. So I've got a lot of stuff here that you can use. And I posted the IAQ Maybe I don't have any more. I didn't want to put too much, but I want to show you there is a whole world of options. You know, I've had students do visual, like mock OSHA audits, and there's a mock OSHA report here at a gas station convenience store, at a Home Depot, at a Menards, at a bar, at a restaurant, in their dad's woodworking garage or shop, excuse me. So there's a lot of options, but it would be good if I could talk to you about it one-on-one or as a group, doesn't matter, and I can give you more insight on what I'd want to see and what you could reference. So that's pretty much everything for this week. I hope that you're, enjoying it and see how things are going on, and realize that, OSHA standards are really the minimum of what we do. There's a lot more higher level things we can do within an environment, a work environment, to improve worker safety. So reach out to me this week.